Kevin Walsh of SportsGrid here, joined by Tony Khan, AEW founder. And Tony, it is an incredible time for the company with so much going on. We appreciate you making some time for us here on SportsGrid.
It's always great to see you, Kevin. It's always great to talk about AEW, and I'm always happy to be on SportsGrid.
I think, Tony, the obvious place to start, we see the hat you're wearing there. For AEW, the most important thing coming up for you guys is the media rights deal. We know how important it is to leagues and businesses and companies, and AEW has been on the cusp for a little bit. How close are we to getting an announcement with some of the details around the deal?
Well, we're having great conversations at Warner Brothers Discovery. Definitely, it's a great home for pro wrestling. TBS is the station that has the longest history of hosting pro wrestling of any channel in America. And we're really excited about having AEW every Wednesday on TBS and every weekend on TNT. I think it's awesome. And we're having great conversations with Warner Brothers Discovery. Mr. Zasloff himself has been really great, very engaged. And we're trying to figure this out. It's a very complicated thing. It's a big media rights package. And I'm very excited to keep working, hopefully for a long time, with Warner Brothers Discovery. We're having a great time here, and we have a great relationship with the management. Mr. Zasloff in particular has been fantastic to us.
I'm curious, Tony, can you kind of just tell people what this would change or what this would provide AEW when you guys are able to score the touchdown? I know you've referenced it's on that 10-5 yard line. The difference that this deal being done would make?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a huge thing. It will mean that all the investment into AEW has more than paid off. It'll mean a very secure future for AEW for a very long time to come. We're going to get a great media rights deal. We're having great conversations here, and we have a great home now at Warner Brothers Discovery. And, I think this is a great home for us. And I'm really pleased they want us to stay. They made us great offers, and we're having great conversations now. But, with 5 hours of wrestling every week and streaming, there's all kinds of things to talk about. And it's really, really very exciting for the future of AEW.
And I'm sure as well, because there's a lot of money that gets tossed around with the media rights deal. And you're as aggressive and successful as it gets with the wrestling free agency landscape, but perhaps then you get to ramp that up even more with some big names that are rumored to be on the market.
Well, potentially, I think so. It's a really exciting time for us. We've already had a great free agent year. We brought in Mercedes Moné, who I think is the biggest female free agent in the history of wrestling, and she is the TBS champion, the face of the network. We'll see her tonight on Wednesday night AEW Dynamite. And we've signed maybe the greatest wrestler ever to come out of the UK, certainly the top free agent in recent memory, Will Ospreay, who is now AEW's international champion and one of our top stars. And we signed Kazuchika Okada, one of the greatest wrestlers ever in Japan. And Okada is the AEW Continental Champion. So all three of these free agents have come in and made a huge mark. Last year, we also signed Adam Copeland, the Rated R superstar. He was the TNT champion, the face of our other network, and he arguably has been on the greatest run of his entire legendary career, which is really saying something because he's had so many great matches, so many great runs, and what he's been doing in AEW is some of the best stuff. I'm really proud of that, and he was on this amazing run. Unfortunately, he got injured, and he had to vacate the TNT title, but we've had so many great free agents come in just in the past year, and absolutely, I'll be active trying to get the top free agents in AEW. That's something I always believe in.
Now, I'm curious, this is just my wrestling fandom, a booking thing, but when you add someone of the caliber that you're referencing, right? Ospreay, Mercedes, Okada, and I'm sure you want to have as many long-term booking plans as possible. How do you try and seamlessly weave these players in to a loaded roster with keeping things smooth with the layout that you already have on the table?
Well, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of complexities to that. There's no one right answer to that. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can introduce or integrate a wrestler into the roster. So it's a really, really fascinating question you're asking. I think one thing that has worked really well historically, people like to bring in new stars at the beginning or end of a pay-per-view cycle to start something new. That's one thing people have typically done. That's probably why historically more free agents arrive at a pay-per-view or at the start of a new pay-per-view cycle as opposed to in the middle of it. But sometimes for different reasons, you might want to bring a star in on a certain show in a certain city on a certain night. I think it just depends on the situation and the star and what's best for AEW and the fans.
Yeah, I think that makes plenty of sense. To go back to the media rights deal and the conversations that you're having with Warner, Warner obviously such a huge company. We know that they are, trying to figure everything out with the NBA. If they end up losing a portion or a lot of that package, it could free up some prime real estate. Could you be interested in Collision or a Rampage moving nights? I'm sure you want Dynamite to stay on Wednesdays, but could you see the Friday or Saturday programming shift?
Well, it's a fascinating question. I think we'd have to look at that, and these are all kinds of interesting things that we can talk about. Some things we are talking about, but I think there's a lot to be figured out there. And the last thing I can do is speculate on what the future of the NBA is. I think I'm in no position to say what their future is, and it's certainly something that everybody's going to be watching very closely. But Warner Brothers Discovery has been great to us, and they've also been very savvy about acquiring sports media rights. I think it was really brilliant to sub-license the college football playoff games. That's going to add even more viewers to TNT, and it brings in events that are going to do some of the biggest audience of anything outside of the NFL. So really smart to bring in the college football playoffs, in my opinion. There's more college football coming in. Obviously, March Madness basketball is a huge part of TBS and TNT's schedule, and MLB and other things. And first and foremost to me, AEW. AEW is on every Wednesday on TBS, and like you said, every Friday and Saturday on TNT. We've had a great thing going. Last Wednesday, we were the number one show on cable, and we were the number one show in viewers 18 to 34 on all of television. And that's the first time we've ever done that, which is a kind of a really cool milestone. It was our 248th episode. We're just 1 week away now from episode 250. But last week, 248 weeks. That's a pretty cool milestone to hit. Our first ever number one on all of television in the young demo. That's really cool. And it speaks to how big the AEW fan base is. And, it's one thing, it's already very exciting. I get thrilled. I'm over the moon and so happy anytime AEW is number one on cable. It's a huge deal. Just like this week, I was so pumped. But it was a little different. That's a new milestone because the reach of cable, not necessarily as big in terms of how many homes it's in compared to some of the networks. So I thought that was really cool for AEW to even beat all the network programming. And certainly I'm sure that's something that now every network executive took notice of. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I am sure they have, and I am, and that's kind of one of the things when it comes to the numbers around all the AEW programming is you have to be cautious with who you listen to speak about it because there are some people out there who don't maybe understand the TV landscape, and I know that Collision has had a couple of weeks within the past month that have had some really, really strong Saturdays. But speaking of Collision, Tony, there is basically a residency coming up for you guys starting in the back end of July into August and in Texas at the Esports Stadium. I'm curious what led you to that decision, and is it something that you think maybe could be a staple for the Collision brand moving forward?
Well, it's a really exciting test. I'm fascinated by this, and personally, it's one of my favorite markets. It's one of the greatest wrestling cities in the world is Dallas and the Dallas Metroplex, and specifically we're running in Arlington. And around Arlington, they've been so good to us. There's so many great wrestling fans around Arlington and the Dallas Metroplex. And the city has made great offer to us to come do these shows at the Esports Stadium, and it opens up lots of possibilities. We're having great conversations with them about possibly doing more events, and I think it would be really great if this works out well because, first of all, I love wrestling. I love wrestling fans, and some of the best fans are those fans there in that old Von Erich world-class territory. I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed working with Kevin Von Erich and his family, and I really appreciate that they've been so hospitable to let us into their territory. And it's great to come down there and do the shows and have them come out and support us. And Kevin and his sons, Ross and Marshall, have been great. They're great friends of ours here in AEW, and might see them again soon. And I think we've got really great fans down there around the Dallas area. So it's great for the fans, but also I think it'll make for a great TV product because, like I was saying, they're such great fans and they express themselves very loudly. They're a great part of the TV, and they make for a great audience for anybody watching at home. You know, when you're watching at home or in your car, on your phone, or wherever you are watching the show, you know, it's really cool that I think when the fans are having a good time, and those fans in Texas have a great time.
They certainly do, and they're also going to be getting an ROH pay-per-view. Now, this is shameless of me, but I don't really care. Do you see a world where you ever run the Hammerstein, whether that's with ROH or AEW? I know that you guys have a lot of key spots within New York. I was at UBS for Forbidden Door. I will be at Arthur Ashe, but this is where I get nostalgic as an 8 or 9-year-old. I know you have your memories of when you were 8 or 9 at, the ECW arena. For me, it's at the Hammerstein Ballroom watching Ring of Honor. Is that something that you're even slightly interested or could be on the board with?
Yes, I think that's a very interesting idea. You know what's interesting? I've never been to the Hammerstein Ballroom. I'd really like
Really?
to go. Yeah, I'd love to do it. I've seen great shows there. I think it's a great venue. I've never been, but we also have these amazing relationships around New York. So it's about right sizing. I mean, for the right event on the right night, it could make a lot of sense. And I'd imagine it would sell out very, very quickly because it's not the biggest room, but it is a fascinating setup. It's a really cool looking room. It's got great acoustics and it's a lot of fun from everything I've seen on television. I'd love to check it out in person. That's a great point. It's a great idea. We also have great venue relationships, like you said, in New York City. We have Arthur Ashe Stadium. That's a great relationship. And then UBS Arena, which is further up towards Long Island where the Islanders play. Like you said, that's a great venue. And a lot of great venues around the tri-state area. But I really think that for us, the Hammerstein Ballroom could be a cool venue sometime. It's a great idea. I haven't thought that much about it, but that's why I love talking to great wrestling fans about ideas. That's an awesome idea from you, Kev.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and if it happens, I will do everything I can to be there. That much I know. Let's get to the big one, Tony, which is Wembley. All in. It's coming up at the end of August. I can only imagine how excited you are, but I also thought it was noteworthy. The first year you guys ran it, All Out was the following weekend. This year you created that extra week of separation. What led you to that decision to just move them just a little bit apart?
I thought it would be really an interesting thing to try. Last year, All Out followed All In. We set the record for wrestling ticket sales at Wembley Stadium. We sold 81,035 tickets in London. Then the next week, we had this sellout, awesome crowd at the United Center. We did a huge show. It was an awesome night. And a lot of people thought All Out was one of the best pay-per-views in AEW history. I think it's challenging for any event to follow All In so closely. And also, it can create the ability for me to do some things between the shows, even though I think there is some synergy to the shows and having big events and being able to link up matches and stories across the shows. There's a lot of utility to that, but I think I can do that and more by moving this show back a week, and also with where Arthur Ashe Stadium Grand Slam AEW is falling this year, it works out, I think, where All Out is really positioned very well a few weeks between All In and Grand Slam. Last year, a lot of people thought All Out was our best show. So I'm very excited to have a top All In and a top All Out this year.
For you with Wembley, last year again, as you said, you guys broke the record. So then the bar. I mean, you shattered the bar. do you guys have a range of where you're going to be super happy with kind of to sales? Because I don't know if the bar for you is to reset the record. What are you hoping to see inside that building?
I want to have a great, huge crowd, and that is guaranteed, and it's only going to get bigger and better. Tonight, we're going to find out who wins the Owen Hart Cup. It's very exciting for us. We love the Owen Hart Foundation and working with Dr. Martha Hart. And this tournament has really become even more prestigious because now the winner of the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament will be receiving an AEW World Championship match at Wembley Stadium. The top woman and the top man in AEW will be stepping up to face the winners of these tournaments. And it's all going to happen tonight on TBS in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Calgary, of course, the hometown of the late, great Owen Hart. And I'm really excited about the tournament. And the stakes are going to be so high going into Wembley. We're going to have huge championship matches, and a lot of really exciting things are happening in AEW right now. And I think the card this year at Wembley Stadium is going to be even better than last year, which was a home run success of an event. We're going to have a huge, huge stadium full of people. I don't know exactly how many it's going to be yet, but I will be very happy with it. I can already tell you, because the advance is great, and it's only going to keep getting better and better as we move towards August 25th at Wembley Stadium.
Now, to stick with kind of the idea of the pay-per-views and the consecutive nature of it as well, I felt some of this kind of peaked with last year's shows, the conversations around the pay-per-views potentially going to streaming. And I want to know, is that something you're interested in? And perhaps more importantly, if it does go to streaming, would that change things for you in terms of frequency or even length potentially?
Well, these are great questions. I think that as it stands right now, we're doing great pay-per-views, and many people think we've got the best pay-per-views in pro wrestling. One thing I know for sure, we're 4 for 4 this year. All 4 events have been fantastic shows. You know, from Revolution, which I think is possibly the best event we've ever done, and following it with Dynasty, which is right there with our best shows. And then on top of that, we had a great Double or Nothing in Las Vegas and went to New York for a huge Forbidden Door. It's been a home run year for pay-per-views, and we're going to keep that going. For the future of the delivery and distribution of these pay-per-view events, that's such a great question, and it's the kind of thing that we're in active conversations about, because it's a very big part of the media rights, and it's a great conversation to have. And these are the great conversations we're having with the awesome people at Warner Brothers Discovery, the very kind people who put on AEW on TBS and TNT every week, and very kind people who sent me this hat for Christmas. And and we're having great talks with them now about how to deliver those shows and what the delivery is going to be in the future for AEW's TV and all our shows.
Now, you know I'm going to ask you a Jaguars question before I let you get out of here, but I do want to ask you one more thing about AEW. It's about a specific wrestler. It's Adam Cole. And I can only imagine how difficult the whole situation has been at the time of the injury, in such a the top storyline in the company at the time. And we're on the outside, but it looks like the timetable has obviously been very difficult to nail down. I'm curious if there's any timetable, but I'm also just curious, Tony, how difficult has the Adam injury made putting the guys that were around him kind of in the places that you wanted to, because of how important Cole is to everything he's around?
Well, he's one of our top stars. We love Adam Cole in AEW, and I think that the injury really affected us in a number of ways. First of all, you're losing a great star off the TV show, somebody the fans always want to see anytime they can be in AEW. And like you said, he was involved in one of the top stories in all of wrestling. And for us, it was a main event at Wembley Stadium. It was huge. MJF versus Adam Cole and their partnership, their friendship. It was a must-see part of AEW's show every week. And when Adam Cole got hurt, it really changed things for us. We had to go in a different direction with a lot of things on the show. It was compounded by the fact that that same night, Jon Moxley was injured. And really, the top 2 programs, I think unquestionably at the time, had to be Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy and MJF versus Adam Cole. And with MJF and Adam Cole in the World Championship match at Wembley, and then their partnership and Samoa Joe getting involved, we had this fascinating dynamic with MJF, Samoa Joe, and Adam Cole. And that was our main event story. And to lose, top people, top wrestlers like Adam Cole and Jon Moxley out of the World Championship match and the International Championship match at the same time, on the same night, that was really hard. And we had to change a lot of things. And I was really proud of the pay-per-view we put on a couple weeks later, Wrestle Dream, the first ever Wrestle Dream. It was an amazing show, and it happened in the shadow of Mox getting hurt and, of course, Adam Cole having that injury. And with Adam Cole went out, it changed a lot of things. He is on the road to recovery. He will be back, and I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to have Adam Cole back in AEW. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. The fans love Adam Cole. And there's a lot of history left to be written for Adam Cole in AEW. He's had some great runs here, and unfortunately injuries have slowed him down a couple times now. And it's a real credit to him and I think to AEW, because some people maybe thought Adam Cole would never get as hot as he was 3 years ago. And he came in last year and he was hotter than he's ever been in his entire career. It was the hottest he's ever been. He was on fire. It was a complete freak accident injury. He will be back, and we have great plans and a great future for Adam Cole. Like we've been saying, it's challenging. Some of the people who are around him had to step up, but you saw MJF and Samoa Joe had a fantastic match that night at Grand Slam and a great rematch at AEW World's End. They're both great world champions, MJF and Samoa Joe, two of our top stars. And we're going into the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament tonight. And of course, Adam Cole is the first ever Owen Hart Cup winner.
Yeah.
And he's one of our great stars. We can't wait to have him back soon, I hope.
All right, Tony, we'll end it on this. We were here on NFL Draft Night, and for the first round and the second round. But on the first round, one of the I think most praised picks was probably Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver out of LSU. What are the early returns from BT in Jacksonville?
What a fantastic pick. I'm so excited about Brian Thomas Jr., and I think the way that we played it was perfect. Our great general manager, Trent Baalke, is working the phones, and he deduced we could trade back and still have a really good chance to get Brian Thomas Jr. And it's a roll of the dice, but it was a very calculated decision, very smart. And it's the second year in a row that the Jaguars have traded down in the first round and still gotten the top player that we wanted at that spot. So we're really excited about Brian Thomas Jr. coming in. He's one of the top vertical threats. This is one of the best deep targets in all of college football. And we're linking him up with one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And with Trevor signed to the extension, the future of the Jaguars is very secure, in my opinion. And Brian Thomas Jr. arrives in Jacksonville at the Jaguars at the perfect time. And I think we're going to have a great season in Jacksonville for the Jaguars.
Looking forward to watching it play out. Tony, always a pleasure to have you here on SportsGrid. Best of luck with what's going to be a very busy summer with AEW.
God bless you, Kev. It's always great to see you. Thank you for having me on SportsGrid, and hopefully see you soon, man.
Absolutely. We will talk. Thank you so much.